For more updates, click on subscribe and click on bell button for latest notifications. Hi friends, welcome to Tech ARKIT YouTube channel. My name is Ravi. In this video session, we are going to see that the perfect SSH tool, and it can also be used for RDP and browsing. So the tool works in such a way that whatever the connections and the username and passwords and the IP addresses of the details, it can be segregated wise, connections wise, and the folder wise, and the you can segregate like the production different and development and something like that. You can categorize all of these connections in separate folders, and you can store the details, all the details, and in a database. So whenever you formatted your system, then again whenever you install the SSH tool back, still you can just install it and connect to that previous database. So your all the connections and details will be intact. So that way, whenever you format your system or whenever you switch from one system to another system, you don't need to worry about the all these connections and remembering the stuff. So this will automatically do for you. So that's the tool where you can get the more advantage, like whenever you have a inventory in place, then that would be your details for your Linux environment or the your Windows environment or whatever the tools you would like to use it on this here. So this is the tool which helps you to connect SSH, RDP and browsing the anything. You can use browser based tools as well. So let's see how you can install and configure that with the database, so that it would be very perfect as to whenever you switch back from one system to another system.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Open Google and type mRemoteNg and click on the download URL here, and select the MSI file to download. Let's it will download in the below. Now let's see, download it. You can now click on open, and it will open for installation. So now the tool ready to install. So it's trying to install now. So which the dependencies are required .NET 4.5 and 4.6 to be installed on the system, otherwise the tool will not install. So now click next, and select the agreement, next, install. So it will take a few minutes to install this. Say yes, and the tool is installing now. Let's launch the tool. Finish. Now you can see that tool is opened. So this is the tool. By default it uses XML configuration to store the connections, but I'm just going to install the database of this one. In order to do that, you have to go to help and find out the help documentation. There you have to select the SQL connections, then click on the query which required to be database query, and select this query and copy it, and go back to the SQL server. So I have installed the SQL server in different server. So there you have to just create the new database, the database called mRemoteNg. That's it, and click OK. So now the database will be created. Now click on database and select the new query and paste the query which you have copied from the help and execute it. So now it will create the tables and all the details on the database. So you can see that there are 3 tables already created here, and go back to the connections, and here change the connection string back to the SQL. So options, and here click on the SQL server and select the SQL authentication, and again you have to provide these details. So let me collect the server IP address and details. Go back here and open the command line. So for this I'm just going to create the new login, so I don't want to use the default logins here. For this I'm just saying SQL authentication login for username is mRemoteNg. So I'm just going to give the password, and password, the same password should match both. So here I'm just going to give the default database as mRemoteNg, and I'm just going to give the some permissions to this user called database, and DB writer, reader, and DB owner. That's it. So now click OK to create the user. So now collect the server IP address to access, or if you have the host name you can also provide the host name there. So I'm just collecting the IP here. So this is the IP 192.168.48.130, and just go back and paste in the configuration, and the database name is same, and type the username and password. Click the test connection, so you can see the connection is successful. Now click OK. Whenever you click OK, so the window will change from XML to SQL server. Now create the new connections. It will store into the database. So connection here, I'm just trying to create a new connection here, so which may be a new RDP connection, and here I'm just going to give the server IP address, username, and password, but I do not give the password here for this one. So that is, username is administrator, and I do not give any admin and password here. Just try to connect this RDP. So RDP has some issues on the server, so I'm just going to create the new SSH session here to connect the Linux server. Okay, let's create the new connection. New connection here, and rename as Linux server, and provide the server IP address here. So we have to change that protocol from RDP to SSH 192.168.48.129, and provide the username as whatever it is, so, and password. Now try to connect it and say yes for the fingerprint access. That's it. So now you are able to successfully connect to the server using the SSH. So let's go back to the server and verify that the database has any entries over here. So you can just extract the tables and try to query the top 100. So you can see this, the connections are stored over here. So whenever you switch from one system to another system, you don't need to again and again create the connections and all the stuff. You just have to create one time and log in from anywhere else using this tool, so it will be perfect. Please follow us on social networking sites If you have any technical related questions, you can ask